I think that there are some real concerns with homeschooling, especially in Ohio, since it's changed in the last couple of years.
I think that there are some real concerns with homeschooling, especially in Ohio, since it's changed in the last couple years.
So I think that there are some real concerns with homeschooling, especially in Ohio, since it's changed in the last couple of years, that now, parents do not have to give you a curriculum that they're following.
That sentence, spoken by the superintendent who watched the system fail, hangs over an entire case. Now consider the specific mechanics of that failure.
The change happened in October of 23. And so before that time, parents would submit the curriculum that they would be using to provide instruction for reading, math, social studies, science, etc. And then there would have to be a licensed teacher that would sign off on the completion of that at the end of the year, or an assessment where, taking, a state assessment or a district level assessment so that you could measure the progress. And that way you can ensure that education was happening. Now, parents can simply just, submit a.
In October of 2023, Ohio changed the rules. Before that change, a parent had to submit a curriculum. They had to prove a licensed teacher signed off. They had to show an assessment. Now, a parent submits a form. The form says, "I'm homeschooling." And then, in the superintendent's own words, there is no accountability past that.
With child endangering, the Gallia County School District filed truancy complaints against Gary CERS Jr. and Elizabeth in October 2021, stating that their 6 oldest children had not been to school at all that school year. The school district considered them habitually truant, and the children were in danger of being labeled unruly children, meaning they were disobedient or didn't.
Now, apply that rule change to a house on Omar Street in Gallia County. The 6 oldest CERS children were enrolled at Adaville Elementary School in October of 2021. The district filed truancy complaints because the children had not been to school at all that year, not one day.
But they didn't attend one day of school, not one. But a year earlier, the children were enrolled in online school.
But a year earlier, the picture was different. In August of 2020, Elizabeth CERS enrolled those same 6 children in the district's online school. The deadline was met, the paperwork was clean.
Was 6. For that 2020-2021 school year, the 6 CERS children were enrolled in Gallia County's online school. Yes, you heard me right. They were enrolled in online school. I've confirmed the children were enrolled in the district's
They were enrolled in the Southern Ohio Digital Academy. Whether they ever logged on, took a test, or received a grade is unknown. The district cannot release that information. The record simply shows a mother who checked a box
in the house on Honeysuckle during the 2020-2021 school year. The district isn't telling us how often the CERS children took part in school online. That is information the district can't release. But Elizabeth CERS had just met the deadline for enrolling her children back in 2020 for online school as required by statute.
That is the visual here. Picture a calendar on a kitchen wall, the August 30th box circled in pen, and next to it a school district stamp that reads, "Received." That stamp is the last hard proof that anyone checked on 6 children's education. The paperwork already knew.
184 of the district's 2,100 students were actually homeschooled. That's different from online schooling.
Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Trial&Crime, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence.
Prior to that change taking place in Ohio, were the parents required, when they were saying, hey, I'm going to homeschool my child, were they required to follow a curriculum and provide a curriculum? Or how did that work prior to this change?
Here is the irony amplification. The superintendent told us what the old system demanded: curriculum, assessments, a licensed teacher's sign-off. That system existed to catch the exact scenario that was about to unfold in that house.
Following, and there's no assessments that have to be completed. So it's
Under the new law, the superintendent said parents do not have to provide a curriculum. There are no assessments. He said families may not even know they are not doing well. That is not a loophole. That is a blindfold placed over the state's eyes.
That's correct. That's correct. So there's a lot of concern with that. And additionally, from my understanding, you can basically decide your child's graduated and have a diploma for them. And
the superintendent called it what it is. Parents can decide their child has graduated. They can issue a diploma. He said no one is able to verify what has been accomplished.
We actually had someone that submitted, a transcript saying that they had attended, I think, a certain name of their academy, which was just their family name. So, yes.
He gave a concrete example. Someone submitted a transcript from an academy that was just their family name. The academy did not exist. The transcript was accepted. The child was marked educated.
That's correct. That's correct. And it's a real concern, I think, for our society because, I think we're not preparing. It's an educational neglect.
Then he said the words that should stop you cold. He said it is an educational neglect, not a gap, not an oversight. Neglect.
It's the concern that teachers and school superintendents such as yourself, school staff, are mandatory reporters when it comes to potential abuse and neglect.
Correct.
Oftentimes, when kids come from backgrounds where they don't have a lot or they're in need.
And that neglect has a second function. Teachers, superintendents, school staff, they are mandatory reporters. They are often the first adults outside the home to see a bruise, a hunger pattern, a silence that means something. The superintendent said school is the well check.
Well, like I was saying earlier, I think that, school districts, especially in rural areas such as ours, provide so much more than just an education. It is kind of that well check and making sure that kids have what they need. It's Christmas.
In rural districts, he said school provides more than education. It provides meals, dental care, Christmas gifts, backpacks of food. It is a whole child system. And when a child is pulled into homeschooling with no oversight, that system goes dark.
And then I think that number really took off during COVID when that was, happening regularly. And so, again, I think the change in legislation really accelerated that because now there's really no accountability. And so if another piece of this, I think, is chronic absenteeism. So we're responsible for reporting when students aren't, attending. And so when there's pressure to attend and there's potential, a legal situation, then parents can just choose.
The numbers prove the pull. 15 years ago, Gallia County had around 34 homeschooled students. Last year, 284. That is roughly 13% of the district's potential students. The superintendent said the change in legislation accelerated the number.
Just to go ahead and homeschool, and then that takes care of the legal obligation to send your child to school.
Do you guys have a lot of habitual truants?
So I'm going to go back to what's called chronic absenteeism, which is 10%, missing 10% of the year. And that's something we report to the state. So out of 180 days, school year, 18 days approximately that they're missing. And we had 22% of our students that were chronically absent this past year. I think that's actually a little below the state average, if I recall correctly. 22% is actually down for us. The year before we had 26% of our kids that were chronically absent, met that definition. And so it's a real concern in Ohio, to get that number down, I think.
And here is the thriller question. If a parent is facing truancy charges and the law lets them simply say the word homeschool to erase the legal obligation to send a child to school, how many children can vanish from state view without a single agency knocking on the door?
You have no clue what could be going on with these kids.
When they're homeschooled, correct. Now, when they're still on our what I'll call on our books, they're still connected with us and not unenrolled. We are still doing what we need to do to make contact with families, have diversionary hearings for attendance, involving law enforcement or the courts, juvenile court. But once they decide to go to homeschooling, we don't have a lot of teeth at that point. We don't have, they're outside of our reach.
The superintendent was direct. Once a family chooses homeschooling, the district has no teeth. The children are outside their reach. He said they have no clue what could be going on with those kids.
Elizabeth CERS attended Gallia County local schools when she was younger, but she withdrew in 2008 when she was 15 to take part in homeschooling. That was the same year she was married and gave birth to her first child. There's no record of Gary CERS Jr. attending the schools.
And then the record closes the loop. Elizabeth CERS herself withdrew from Gallia County Schools in 2008 at age 15. The reason listed homeschooling. That was the same year she was married and gave birth to her first child. The system lost track of her. The paperwork already knew.
Senior is in an undisclosed location, free on bond. Attorneys for all four Siders family members have raised issues about their competency. Remember, you can read the entire case file about the Siders case on our app, Law and Crime Plus. Download it and check it out. And that's it for this episode.
Her children now sit at the center of a child endangering case that began with a truancy complaint and ended in a criminal docket. The public can still read that docket. Pull the Gallia County truancy filing from October 2021. Then ask yourself one question. When the school district flagged 6 children as missing from class, did any agency follow up before the children vanished for good? Leave your answer in the comments. The paperwork already knew. If this breakdown matters to you, like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Trial Crime. We read the files so you can see what the system missed.